go first to see if the bottom of the cliff is safe.
Oh dear.
And so, having made our first bit of downward progression on Aconcagua, I think it's time for us to take a bit of a breather and catch up with our party to see how everybody's holding up. First off with Pachamama here, Kato does wonder where her bodyguard, that gentleman that was sitting next to her on the plane, might be. And a part of me wants to assume that he should have been thrown somewhere close to her, but obviously that wasn't the case, so I don't know. Kinda hope he's doing alright. Now with Julia and Steve, they have very similar questions for Kato. Namely, they are pretty curious about when a rescue party might be showing up. Now, obviously having the transponder might help a lot, mostly because the authorities probably don't even know that their plane went down or where their plane went down, but even with the most optimistic viewpoints, considering the weather and the altitude, it would probably still take a number of hours before a rescue party would ever show up. And considering the type of dress that they're all in, that might still be a dangerous prospect for them to be on this mountain for that long. Still, the best thing they can do for right now is try to make their way over to the nose of the plane and hope to God that the transponder is still working. And I guess since, well, that's the next thing we should do, we should probably go ahead and head off towards where the nose of the plane should be, which I think is up north here. And speak of the devil, yeah, it's another familiar figure sitting in front of the nose. Yeah, that's right. It seems to be Pachamama's bodyguard. Sadly, he does not seem to be doing too well. And to make matters worse, there is that bit of a language barrier between us and the bodyguard. The good thing is that since he is asking for Pachamama and she is our translator of sorts, we can go ahead and bring her over to get the conversation going. And as you might expect, he is not doing so well. And you can already kind of tell how, I guess, the kind of relationship that he and Pachamama have, or, probably the overall altruistic feelings that she has towards her people in general, because she is more concerned with her bodyguard than getting off the mountain, or the fact that he hasn't been able to, do his bodyguard duties in his current state. Still, what we need to do right now is hopefully try to patch him up, and I don't know, we probably need to get away from the nose of the plane as quickly as possible. Because if we take a closer look at its surroundings, it's definitely in a pretty precarious state here. Sitting right at the edge of a cliff, and something seems to be leaking out of the side. Looks like there is a dangerous oil spill here, so even if the cliff didn't get away, a random spark could easily cause a small explosion here on the side of the nose. Still, without further ado, we should probably start looking around for something we can use to patch up the bodyguard there. And we can already see an item waiting for us on the ground that might be of some use. And what what we find is, for lack of a better term, a vomit bag. Pretty common item that you might find on a plane. And while we aren't probably going to be getting airsick here on the ground, we could probably find some other uses for a watertight little sack. Still not going to be very useful for a bandage or anything like that. And outside of that, there doesn't seem to be much else over here, unless we do take a closer look at some of the wreckage. Because Kato does have a pretty brilliant idea that we could use some of the seat covers as kind of a makeshift bandage. The only problem is that we need something to cut it with, and, well, coincidentally, we do have someone that has a knife that can make quick work of the airliner seats. Yeah, even at this point, things are still in a bit of a tutorial stage. It's still mostly just making sure you know to look around as much as possible and to use each one of your party members to their utmost skill. And right now, Julia's primary skill is as a source of fire and as a knife-edged expert. So with our handy-dandy blade, she can make quick work of the seat covers. And we should be able to get enough cloth to form, hopefully, a nice little bandage for the bodyguard. Alright, let's go see if we can't patch him up real quick. I mean, even though it's not expressly said that any one of us has any kind of first aid expertise, should be easy enough just to wrap that guy up in a little bit of cloth to stop the excess of bleeding he's bound to be having right now.
This should stop the bleeding from your injury soon. But it's cold out here. I'll put you on that seat. There you go.
Yeah, I'm sure this nearby seat is a lot more warmer than the couple of inches nearby, but more importantly, now that he is safe and out of the way, we should be able to get into the cockpit. At least that would be the case if the door was not frozen shut. Yeah, if only we had some form of intense heat, we could probably melt the ice on the door and get to that transponder. Good thing is that we do have a source of oil off to the side here, and, well, we do have something to collect that oil in, so let's go ahead and use that waterproof vomit bag and see if we can't collect some of that oil. Maybe get a little bit of intense heat going. Also, while we collect this oil, I do want to point out that, yes, we don't have any active music going on right now, but I think the game does do well whenever it, just kind of relishes in the ambiance of the environment rather than just kind of constantly bombarding you with music. It really does set the tone for quite a few scenes in the game without actually having to rely on any music at all. But yeah, we now have our vomit bag full of oil. And while it's probably not the safest place for the bodyguard to be, we don't have anywhere else to move him, so yeah, we can only hope some oil doesn't get onto him. Now it should just be a simple matter of having Julia ignite that oil and hope that it causes enough heat to unfreeze the door. Yet again, probably not the safest thing to do, but, you know, can't really do much else in the situation. And with a slight bit of singeing of our facial hair, we should now be able to make our way into the cockpit, where everything is quite a bit in shambles, but amazingly enough, there is someone left alive. Yeah, amazingly, after that pretty horrible crash, one of the pilots is still doing okay. And while Julia does press on him a bit to figure out what might have happened, if it could be a malfunction issue, the pilot instead seems to reassure her that everything seemed to be going normal until there was a sudden explosion. I suppose it still could have been some, problem with the plane, but there's really nothing at the back of a plane unless there's an engine back there that would cause an explosion, so it still seems pretty weird. And while he relaxes a bit, it's kind of a shame that the other pilot does not seem to have fared as well. Yeah, he is very much dead. Much like what looks to be most of the console and the cockpit here. Thankfully, there is one piece of the console here that is still in somewhat working order. And that is the transponder. That is in the central area of the console. Problem is that it seems to not have any power going to it.
Shit! Where the hell is the rescue party? What's that sound?
It's a helicopter. It's the sound of a helicopter.
Look! It must be a rescue party! Over here! Over here! Hey! Over here! It's a rescue party! We're safe!
But how did they find us so soon?
¡No! ¡No se acerquen a ese helicóptero!
Are they government troops?
Shit! They're coming this way!
What the hell is going on? Why are they shooting at us? Aren't they supposed to rescue us?
They might have mistaken us for someone else.
Who the hell did they mistake us for? That's no excuse.
Maybe they mistook us for rebel guerrillas based in the mountains.
I got an idea. We can use a transmitter to let them know. Let's talk to them right away before they circle back around.
Alright, so a little bit of mistaken identity, I suppose, on the part of the military, just opening fire on that guerrilla fighter dressed up as an airplane pilot. But yeah, we have even more of a pressing reason to get that transponder and, I guess, general equipment in the cockpit working. And as I was stumbling around outside the nose here, I did kind of take notice of this small little hole here in the side of the plane. And yeah, that seems to be a port for a missing battery.
Fuck! The battery's missing! What can we do?
What do you think? We've no choice but to look for a battery.
But where should we look?
I don't think it's on this side of the valley. If it had fallen on this side, we would have found it already.
They're back!
We better move to the other side anyway.
Well, what should we do about him? We'll be caught if we take him with us.
Olvídate, Timmy.
How about drawing their attention as we run? They should follow us. Everyone looks okay? Now I just hope I find a battery somewhere around here.
And just like that, we are thrust into our first real dangerous situation of the game, in this action set piece where we need to evade this bullet-shooting helicopter while we are on the lookout for a battery. Now the good thing is that as this is our first little action set piece, things are pretty simple. The plane will only, or the helicopter will only be taking pot shots at us as it's making its way from the right to the left, so as long as we can get behind some of the cover here, we should be alright. As you can imagine, if those bullets do tear into you, you'll be going down pretty quickly. But already we find a little piece of cliffside here that Kato should be able to scale upwards. Need to make sure and be on the lookout for this particular little texture here because it's always an indication of a place that we can climb up. Now, we don't want to be going off to the left-hand side for right now. Instead, we want to go check out this item here that's just hanging off the ledge. The issue is that, yeah, this ground seems to be a little bit D for dangerous. And that's because it's not really that solid. Instead, the snow is more or less making it seem like it's, fairly solid ground, but if we were to walk on it, it would just collapse right underneath us. So instead, maybe we could reach out and grab this item. Sadly, it is just a little bit out of our reach. And in this case, we can't really turn to any of our other party members to get up here and try to get it for us, so instead, as Kato says, maybe if we find a long stick or something, we can poke it over to us. Still, as there is no other item up here, we should just go ahead and scale our way back down. I am pretty wearisome of getting too close to the edge and probably drawing the attention of that attack helicopter, so let's keep on making our way to the right. And though it's initially a bit hard to see, yeah, there is what appears to be a battery up on the ledge there. with another short, easy climb for Kato, we get the item that we were looking for. A spare battery. Now, while we could go ahead and head back to our party, since we're over here, we might as well go ahead and poke around a little bit to the right-hand side here. We don't want to head too far south, though. Instead, we want to make our way further down the little cliffside here. Where we do stumble across another dead airline, I guess, craftsman. Another member of the crew. And while he is very dead, Kato is still somewhat relieved that he wasn't shot to pieces by the helicopter, so... cool. I guess the only person we verified as actually being totally murdered by the government is just that one pilot, so... good, I guess. But yeah, something that we learn here is that for some reason the helicopter does not have very good vertical vision. Instead, it only seems to be very focused on going from the left to the right, and pretty much we're able to get down here without any kind of real trouble. The problem is, the only thing we really find down here is just a bit of plane wreckage. And while I guess we could use that as cover, we're not really looking for cover right now. Instead, we need to communicate with that helicopter and see if we can't get it to stop firing on us. So, we can go ahead and hand the battery off to Steve here. He is our resident electronics man and engineer. And hopefully he should be able to get the communication device working, and I don't know, maybe we can have a nice little helicopter ride down the mountainside. I'm sure we can totally gloss over that previous murder they did. You know, bygones will be bygones. It's very snowy out, so how could you tell that that was just a pilot? It's hard to say. But yeah, while you might think that just popping a battery in might be a pretty easy course of events, it's actually a bit more complicated than that. In fact, after popping it in place, it does take a little bit of extra know-how of electronics to get it fully in place. Also, it is for the best that we got Steve to come over here, because once we initially try to use the equipment here, it does seem like the emergency frequency needs to be set, which he does thankfully know. The problem, yet again, is the fact that we are dealing with a South American military, so they are probably going to be more used to speaking in Spanish. But that's easy enough to solve. We just need to have Pachamama come over here and, you know, smooth things out and get them to help us. And hey, just like that, it does seem like we're saved.
strangely. Look out!
Tenemos órdenes de llevarla de vuelta. Los otros sobrevivientes deben ser exterminados. Por favor, venga con nosotros.
What the hell is going on?
Look, the government troops only want me. The soldier told me that they were ordered to kill everyone else.
That means the Marusan government planned the crash as well.
Are you saying that we have nothing to do with this? And we just got caught up in your fucking war?
Steve, cut it out. We don't have time to quarrel among ourselves. We have to concentrate on finding our way out of this.
She's right. Pachamama, you'll have to tell us all of the details after we get rid of that helicopter.
Just like that, the political intrigue gets turned up to 11, Steve's bitchiness goes up to fucking 12, and yeah, we are going to have to take down this helicopter in some unique, over-the-top fashion, I think. First things first, there was something that fell out of the helicopter as it made its escape from the bodyguard's very, very potent pistol. Just need to be very careful in getting to it. And what is it? Why, it's one of those poles you use for pushing yourself while skiing. Now, for most people, just having one of these is not super useful, but in our case, it's exactly what the doctor ordered for getting that weird little package that was sitting up on the cliffside up here. Now, so far, the game has been pretty good with giving us very obvious items to use. I mean, we need to grab something far away. Hey, now you have this this little stick here that should be able to pull an item closer to you. So with that chain of thought, I can only assume that there might be a rocket launcher in here, maybe a flare gun might be a little bit more realistic, something to help us take down this helicopter in a very action-packed way. Ah, a life raft. Not the most conventional weapon, I'd say, but it does give me an idea. Especially since I know at this point that the helicopter has no, vertical line of sight, so we've now managed to place ourselves above the helicopter. Now, we just need to find a way to stop it from moving so much. And that's the other thing that you might notice different with the helicopter just making its way back and forth, that there is that little foothold line that's now just dangling from underneath it. And that does seem the perfect means to get it caught up on something on the ground. And we do happen to know that there is an odd bit of wreckage down here right underneath the path of the helicopter. Yeah, we can interact with that wire And as Julia says, we just need to find something to get it caught up on, and indeed it does pass right through that wreckage. It's now merely just a matter of timing it out properly to get this wire caught up on all this, pointed pieces of metal down here. And just like it says on the side of that life raft, in case of water landing, or if you have to take down a fucking helicopter, pull string.
We should be able to immobilize the helicopter. I mustn't miss the timing.
Los tenemos.
¿Estás bien?
No deberías sentir pena por mí. Si tú mueres, Merusa morirá contigo. Merusa volverá a la era de las tinieblas, cuando el miedo lo controle todo. Tú no puedes morir, pase lo que pase. Por los compañeros que sacrificaron sus vidas por este movimiento y por la gente de Merusa. Sobrevive y tienes que bajar esta montaña. Por favor, salva a Merusa, nuestra madre patria.